afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here today. In 2016, if I'm not wrong, there was an battery. Okay, thank you. So there was this international competition in Delhi, and it was by ITPO, and together with Arcop we participated. There was, if I'm not wrong, there were about 16 international teams, including very big firms like Norman Foster or Koch Himmelblau, DP from Singapore. There was a lot of firms. So we participated with Arcop, and we won this competition. So we would like to explain you today what was the origin of those ideas that now they are under construction with Arcop in Delhi. So we want to go quickly what are the basic concepts that we use from day one. So if you are asked to create a symbol for a nation like India, which thousands of years of history, and basically you need to learn first what is the roots of this country, this culture, and you have been asked to create a symbol for a new India, a new Delhi, but at the same time of a proud nation like India it is. So you need to learn what is the heritage that needs to become legacy. So we did basically to do a research of what could be told about this site. So what are the historical roots of the site? And basically it's overwhelming. Everything you study about Delhi is overwhelming because it's one of the oldest places on earth. Basically, so we did an historical research. What could we do to represent Delhi as a place like New Delhi, where a lot of cultures have been going through, and what could we do to create a new icon to represent the whole nation? So basically, first study the site. You know where it is Pragati Maidan. We realized that previously, many years ago, the Yamuna River was touching the Purana Kila. It was there, so the water was there. We realized that during the years it has been moving, and then there is infrastructure also coming. And then we did a quick historical research because we never had time to do the super deep one. And if you look at what are the contemporary icons, structural icons that they are in the area, and I call modern even the Red Fort because everything is much older. How is this site connected with the Rajpath and the whole British master plan? We realized that we had to go probably even deeper and to say what was there before the 7 cities that Delhi was before, and try to come out with something that honored the origins of Delhi before everything, even before humanity happened in Delhi. So first we did a quick close-up study on the site, how it connects with the current network. Obviously, we did a bit of Vastu studies as well, where the entrance could be located. Luckily, they match well with the master plan, where the open space should be. In terms of environment, where were the prominent winds, because there will be a lot of spaces to ventilate, to create comfort for thousands of people visiting the site. We did study the current structures and what is the current urban fabric, how it was done during the 60s, and what structure we could propose in terms of considering all these elements. So we wanted to create 2 zones, a central space and a focal point that connect with the current city, but to honor the origins of Delhi and the Indian culture itself. We thought that was important to bring back what created Delhi, which is basically the Yamuna River. And in this old plan that I showed you at the beginning, the Yamuna River was touching the Purana Kila, and we thought that this was one of the components that we should bring back. So once it connects with the infrastructure, there will be people arriving from the Mathura Road, people arriving from the metro. There will be quite of impact with the buildings on the side roads. There is the Purana Kila as well, giving access. And once you combine all of this and many other things that I'm not showing, once you combine it all, together with the brief, of course, also the political context, the traffic, the infrastructures of the city, we came out with this initial plan. This is a plan that normally we don't show, but this was the competition plan. So as you can see, the current master plan is very similar, but this was the initial context. So we bring the water from the Yamuna in the shape of a pergola that covers all the pedestrian path, all the circulation. We locate the convention center where we thought was the best focal point. We bring the water back to Matura Road, and we create a central plaza with a very strong civic component, which is actually the focal point rather than the convention center itself. Underground, there is connections with the infrastructure of Delhi, and there is access to a car park that will host around 4,000 cars. So you can park directly, you don't need to circulate around. The buses are also going down there. And for the competition, we created a couple of images. So this was the initial competition winning entry. This obviously evolved later into a concept design. Still, most of the components are there. Everything is more in order. All the technical areas behind the exhibition halls, they are calculated for turning radius. There was initially a little hotel. The landscape at the front gets organized as well. The buildings, they start to take shape. And in the final version, you can see how the pavilions, they are becoming bigger. Each one of them is 10,000 square meters. They can get connected. And the convention center stays where it should be. But the two prime exhibition halls, the elliptical ones, they will be the frontage that you see from Matura Road. So there will be a lot of water features, landscape, and a very important plaza, which is what we thought could be the connection with the whole city. This is one of the levels. As you can see, all the halls, they are connected. They can be connected. They have 2 floors. And there is a central space that is naturally ventilated, focusing on the east opening to the west winds. And there will be also some symbolical sculptures that represent the history of India. How do you bring 100,000 people at the same time in a place like this, with this weather as well? So there is several entrances, several levels of control, where there is several ticketing points, and there is nothing can be built under the convention center. It's supposed to host the G20 summit in a couple of years. So it was a high security. So we have to study perfectly from the metro, from the taxi point of view, people walking in, how they will arrive, how the sites will be served from the back. Those were studies that they were there from concept design, and they remain mostly like that. Together with, as you can see, this massive infrastructure projects, which is the whole basement connecting with the roads and easing the traffic at Matura Road. So Hall 2 and Hall 1, there will be a kind of prime exhibition halls. Phase 1 is already complete. And together, I think you can fit almost 15,000 square meters in one single level. Phase 2 will be completed as well, and there are combinations of 2. The way they work, they can be used in 2, they can be used all together, they can be used at different levels. And there is a series of escalators and elevators that they connect them all. Some of them, they have a food court on the top. And this is how they look today. Thanks to Arcop excellent work during the whole process. We are really proud of the results. As you can see the use of colors, trying to match also the local materials, even if they are aluminum, if there's paint, or there is artificial stone. There's a series of amphitheaters that they serve open space events. And going to the convention center, we did not only one version as usual, we do many versions. So this was the competition entry. After that, we were requested to do 3 different versions. The winner of this was a one called The Window to Delhi, and this was the original entry where the main components, they were already there, but the shape was totally different. So this was the preliminary concept design of the current exhibition center or convention center. The main components were to have a civic plaza facing the facade. The city should reflect on this facade, but you should be able to go up to the 25-meter high, so you could see the city from the top. So you create a new window to Delhi, which was symbolizing a new way to look at the city from the city itself. We did also other versions. We call it the Smart City. It was more focused on creating landscape, connected landscapes, a very contemporary classic, more axial. But Window to Delhi was the winner, and this is what we developed later. So we were asked to go for the Window to Delhi, but we needed to do an Indian convention center. So basically, we know how it's a traditional house, how it's a temple, but we don't know how it's a traditional convention center. There is no traditional convention center. So we had to do, again, go back to the point one, study the site. We calculated the distances, the possibility of visibility on the site. So if you drive in Delhi, you can realize that your perception of the city is basically a green city, but there's a lot of traffic. You are never able to see it from above. As a pedestrian, of course, never. So only if you go into some buildings. So we thought that the Window to Delhi should go above the tree canopy level, so we could enhance this beautiful collection of Mughal domes and buildings, and the whole history of Delhi was there. We even wanted to see the river, but it was not possible. So the first sketches were like that. It's very rare to have a room for 7,000 people 25 meters above ground, because it needs a lot of fire escape and things. But the essence of the whole project was to create this space that allow us to look back to the city from a new point of view. So how do you create an Indian modern building when you have the dancing girl and a space plan? So we had to do trying to understand what was a institutional building, where were the symbols of India and how they were built in history, and what makes a difference between an institutional building and a traditional house that normally they are square and they are Vastu compliant and all these things. So we did a study. There was always steps. There is a strong relation with the water. Most institutional buildings and temples, regardless of the culture that is going through, they have round components, strong round components. They have very often colonnade. The column is a very important symbol. And there is a relation with the water from, it's the origin of the whole of Indian subcontinent is the Yamuna river and the Ganga. So we did study this relation, and we found some ancient symbol that related the two rivers, the Ganga and the Yamuna. So we found this symbol that symbolized their unity, is the origin of the plains and the origin of the Indian culture. So based on this symbol, we said, okay, we need a round space as well. And this was the first sketch based on this inspiration. We thought, okay, we are going to have a plenary room for 3,000 people. We need a lot of ramps. Let's focus on this symmetrical shape that symbolize the two rivers. So we are consistent with the idea of bringing back the Yamuna to the fort as well. And these were the first sketches, the first SketchUp models of the convention center. I don't think if they have been shown before in public. So there is water, there is colonnade, there is round, there is natural stone, there is the local stones. All the components that I just explained, they're all in ones. And there is a facade of glass, bringing modern materials, that is slanted. So from the plaza, if you visit the plaza, you should be able to see what the people from the Window to Delhi see as well. So the skyline will reflect on the facade. So from the plaza, you can see. And if you go up to the window, you will see the skyline back, connecting the plaza and the building with the rest of the city and its history. Once you move 25 meters up, a room for 7,000 people, you have spaces under where you can fit even more amphitheaters. And there is one under. This is very strong ramps that they use as access. Those are the initial sketches. And more advancing in the design. We are in concept design already. All the components, even if before was a square, they were already there. And this is how we end up. You can see the reflection. We did a very deep study about if we will be able to see it or not. We believe we can. And this was the final concept design. The landscape became very important. It's a strong axial component that leads you to this plaza. World leaders will be dropping there. And this is the section during the initial stages. Combination of water, colonnade, steps, round shapes is all modern and ancient India in one single section. Some images of initial renders. We did a study. We create our own software to make sure that everyone can see well in the plenary room. Actually, it's a Greek amphitheater, so I always thought you don't really need the software because they work, but we did the study and just to prove that it does work. The plenary hall, it can host around 3,000 people, and there is a multifunctional hall that can host 7,000 people. You can combine them all, you can split them, you can do several cuts with curtains, so you can use it in different ways. And we did also the initial sketches about what we thought this could look using natural materials. Arcop has developed this to the last detail. It's fantastic. And we did also the initial schematic design for how the facade should be using artificial stone or jersey. And we did the initial sections for the construction. And it's actually, I will show you now, one of the last slides is quite exactly how we design it. You can see the landscape coming up. And this is the view from the window to Delhi. On the right, if you see, it's a bit difficult to see, but you will see the domes of the Raj Path and everything it is working. After 2 years not being able to visit India because COVID, finally I was able to travel again. I'm living in Singapore. Our offices are in Singapore, so they are very strict about traveling. Now they are in the situation. So the first thing I wanted to do is to come to see how it was. Was very, very impressed. You know it's big, but you don't realize how big it is until you are there. So Sanjay brought me there to see, and we were very impressed with the progress, the scale, and the quality of the construction and everything as well. Sanjay, please. Yeah. Thank you. This one.
That takes you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Simon. Before I go into the detailing of the project and certain other sections, let me, at the cost of repeating, what Simon has just spoken about, let me briefly talk about, few aspects that we were, very strongly collaborating with Aedas at the time that we were, doing the concept of the schematic design. So we really, were looking at this project, which is an urban project, of course, but, the original Pragati Maidan, as you know it, had a certain character to it. This was a project which was, let's say, 150 days of the year was closed. Okay, it would close down at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the evenings. Open up at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it was almost a ghost town. Evenings. Except the few years that you had the few banquets and the restaurants inside, which created a life of its own. And the other issue that was there with Pragati Maidan was that it was an absolute chock-a-block whenever IITF happened. Anybody who has seen Pragati Maidan and its areas around it during the times of India International Trade Fair, 14th November onwards, for 2 weeks, it was a madhouse. We as Delhiites would not even go there. So when we got this project, this was probably October, Simon, if I'm not wrong. you know, I went and stood there for 2 days in the morning during the IITF and saw the traffic build up. And it was absolutely crazy. You know, people were all over, there were cars all over, there no place to, drop people. People would just keep hopping in and out of the car and the cars would go away. It was absolutely crazy. So we said we have to really look at something, where we can integrate this project as a part of the city development instead of being on its own. And I think that brought us to the point where we can, proudly say that this is probably one of the few projects where it has given more to the city than it has taken from the city. So it is really a 2,000 crore project which has a 1,000 crore traffic improvement plan riding on it. It has a 3-lane into 2, that's 6-lane divided underground tunnel which goes under our exhibition halls and makes life impossible for us, because all those exhibition halls riding with their structure on top of a city tunnel was absolutely crazy. But we're happy about it now. It wasn't that at that point in time. So that's one thing where I think we broke new ground. And the other place where we thought besides detailing the building out beyond the collaboration of the schematic into design development and speccing the project right, and so on and so forth, we thought a project of this nature should really bring certain elements which have been hitherto been ignored. And I think a public project at that really has that important aspect of bringing public art as a part of the building. When we were designing and collaborating with Aedas at the time of concept and schematic, we did speak about this, that let the building be designed in a manner that it really is creating place making for public art, so that people, when they come, besides the engagement at the urban scale, they also engage and create these iPhone definition selfie points in the entire building. So we really integrated art as a design of the building instead of bringing it in later and trying to superimpose that as a part of the building. So I will walk you through what we did, I believe quite successfully, as the intervention of the public art. So the one that you see is the Shank, or as we call it, it's arrival of good times. And this is appropriately placed at where the heads of the state and the presidents and the prime ministers of the country will come and drop off at the time of G20 summits and the Africa summits and so on. So this is raised on the podium, like Simon explained, that it is at the first level. So that's where you come in. And we did, what you see on the right, an abstract form of Shank which sits within the water body. So it becomes an engagement point for people to come in. And this is a section which is open to the public. So this is in the non-ticketed zone of the project. Then we went in further, and looked at the building. And the building had large pre-function spaces, which was, your space before you would go into the actual seminar halls and, other stuff. So this is, really the area where the engagement with people who were experiencing this building would come about. So we created this Surya Shakti, which is the, which is what we titled the artwork as, after the India's, Solar Alliance initiative. And this artwork, just to give you an idea of the scale, this is close to about 12 meters high, and it's about 58 to 60 meters long. Okay. And it is made up of course, the horses in a very, very direct manner. But, when we are making it into a very abstractized form, breaking it up into smaller triangles and, trying to create and move away from the actual, fluid image of the horse. But you have the disc in the middle, which, symbolically has those, wooden lines which cut across to show the, the sun. That's the other pre-function hall, which talks about Zero to ISRO, which is India's, journey. Now, it's a lot of these artwork are centered around the government's initiative, because, this is, government's seat for G20. So we were pretty aware about that, and, we were made aware about that. So this is Zero to ISRO. Each disc, which is made of different materials, it's talking about the times of, the pre-Vedic times to India's travel to Mars and stuff like that. And then, like I said, that the architecture really created spaces, around opportunities for art. So this is one such space. The building is symmetrical, so you have, like we had the Solar Alliance and the Zero to ISRO, which are two sides. Similarly, you have a semi-open courtyard, which is half covered, half opened. You see it from level 1, from level 2, from level 3. You see it while you're going up the ramps, which were inspired from the Ganga Yamuna sketch that Simon just spoke about. So this courtyard is very, very dynamic in the sense of how you perceive it. So we came up with this tree of life. And if you notice, the tree is made up of hexagons and broken hexagons and stuff like that, which is the symbolism of India's IT growth. So that was the fundamental idea. And then the, courtyard, which was on the other side, was India Rising, where we created the world map, in an abstract manner, and created doves, which were, which are tied to very, almost invisible stainless steel threads, so that they look to be, airborne, and which is also the symbol of peace. And then we brought in, another subtle level of art where we used calligraphy and texts to, sort of convey, what the India's cultural traditions have been with respect to the 5 elements of life, or, the world being one community, Vasudev Kutumbakam, which is again based on calligraphy. And then, of course, this is a very interesting artwork. It looks very, very, very traditional. But what we did was we fused 3, art forms. One was the miniature paintings, of course. The second was the, marble inlay of Agra. And the third was the beaten brass work of Pradabad. So we brought all of them together, put them in relief, and created an artwork which was, sort of a gesture to respect all the handicrafts of that region. And then this was at the level 1, which is the fusion of the architectural heritage in the jalis across the regions of the country. And we overlaid that with the textiles of the country. Okay. So, you would have the bandhanis, or you would have the, georgettes, etc. of the country. We put them at the back and, overlaid that with the architectural jalis, and we created this, artwork. The textiles came about from the fact that India exported a lot of textiles, and ITPO being what it is about trade. Then we carried this, idea further. Am I running my time out? Okay, I'll be faster. So, we wanted almost all the elements. We were going beyond the urban scale of the building and trying to make it very India in almost the finer details also, but in a very, very non-intrusive manner. So we wanted a chandelier which would become a signature chandelier. So this is one of these, chandeliers which is put up in the window to Delhi. And to tell you the scale, it's a 100-meter long chandelier. It's approximately 6.5 meters in the center, and it starts at about 1 meter at the edge. And it's basically inspired from the Sangam, which is the Ganga, Jamuna, and the mystical Saraswati. So we took that and we created a form which was very free-flowing, crystals going across with a brass tube running through it. And then this gets seen from outside, from the state banquet lawns. Simon has spoken about it, but I will still, try to steal his thunder. We also did our own plenary hall sightline analysis, and I think the age-old thing of Roman amphitheater was proven right again, Simon. So we were pretty good about it. Just to tell you that, in this, we created, just a minute. The sightline seems to have gone away. Okay. They've come. Yeah. So this was done on a software where every single, seat was analyzed from over 200 points. So that, at any point of the, stage, you are able to see very clearly. It shows you on that, you know, which particular seat you're seeing from. And then, of course, GFRC cladding, we wanted the cladding to be looking like a stone. So we created, again, a fusion of the bush hammer texture, but we brought in technology. So the way this texture was achieved was that we created CNC driven grooves that you see. And then once they were done, we got them to chisel the stone, created a rubber form of that. And then from that, we created the GFRC cladding. Again, just taking the India story through. So there were carpets which had to be made. So we took textile arts, the bandhanis, etc., and we created, you know, designs for the carpets. The whole idea was that every single element, even the finer details, come out of something which is very, very, you know, culturally associated with this country. Indian vintage architecture. So we took the forms and we created, you know, customized carpets out of that. Canopy, this was a very interesting study. We created the glass canopy, but of course, you know, glass, Delhi, so much heat, you have to create, patterns which you are able to break the heat, but still, you know, have the light going through. So if you notice very carefully, the, you know, interesting pattern there, which is inspired from the peacock, does, besides, you know, creating interesting, sort of patterns on the floor, it also creates this interesting pattern on the metal beams and almost makes it disappear. And then we took again the, you know, premium furniture which was being used for the G20 halls, and, you know, took the symbols from the Indian architecture form and heritage, and, you know, brought them on as very subtle recalls. You know, this was the chinar, so brought it in, bidri work, took the symbols and, you know, got them back onto the furniture elements. Okay, and this was of course the windows of Delhi. So I think Ashutosh is there from SPCL. He can carry on the construction part.
Good afternoon, all. To make architects' creativity into a reality, execution plays a vital role. So to start, with this note, I would like to start Shapoorji, Pallonji team working. We had some challenges, but we would like to show how we made this. Anybody? It's not working. This one? Okay. No, not later. Not this.
This one?
No. Yeah, no.
You want to go back or
Further.
further? Should I take it?
Just a minute.
I'll check it from there.
Yeah. Okay. To start with, as SPCL, we faced some challenges which I'll run through. We had some site logistic issues, structural design challenges, finishing, facade, construction, and services, which I'll run through with the next slides. So, the construction zone which we are showing in a red color, when the site got mobilized, we we faced some challenges. The site was divided into two parts. There was a tunnel which Simon discussed about the city tunnel. So we faced challenges to start the project. So we started with hall 3, 4, 5, and because of those challenges, the project got delayed for 6 months. We were not able to, there was only one vehicular movement from heavy vehicular movement from the Bhairo side. There was no, not major any heavy vehicular movement gates from the Mathura roads. So this was a major challenge. Then pandemic was the major issue. So now this is about the dynamism of the elevation and structure. The major challenge what we faced, if you see the elevation, not a single glass and the GFRC is same. So to execute, to design, so it took us a major challenge. And you can see where window to delay. I'm sorry, I don't have pointer, but on the outer side you can see there are 20-meter cantilever. I would love to explain. Can I have a pointer? Okay. So the project is, we can see that. Thank you so much. Okay, so if I start with this truss. This is a perpendicular truss supported with a tri-column with 20-meter cantilever, and even the floor is suspended. Now the challenge what we faced, to support this, we have to place this major truss. This we called as MT8 truss. This truss is 120-meter width with 20 meters cantilever, 8.5 meter deep. The major challenge we faced, because there was a static deflection. I'm more talking about the structure, but it is required to understand how the structure being built. Now, this truss, I'll speak further. Because there is a static deflection, so we made a diaphragm wall, and the stiffeners, we placed the stiffener in the back side to support this. Now, just if we go further, you can see the complexity. This perpendicular girder is MT8 truss, 20 meters long with 75-meter trusses. This perpendicular truss I'm talking about. So this is the major complexity of a project to execute. Now, this is a truss we're talking about. This is the whole story about the structure, what we made. This is 120-meter long, 20-meter cantilever each side, 60-meter clear span. This is what we are talking about, the 60-meter clear span. Okay. So she's saying I'm short of time. Okay. So in quick, supporting 75-meter long perpendicular trusses, which covers the plenary, which covers the window to Delhi area, approximately 8.3 meter truss depth, 600 plus metric ton truss weight. The challenge what we have, if you see, it's a top-down construction. It's not, because unless we put this truss in place, we cannot make the lower structures. So that was a major challenge. So this is what we faced. And further, now as we discussed, there was a 20-meter cantilever, so there was a static deflection. So we, based on the analysis, we put diaphragm wall, we put stiffeners. And the major challenge we faced about this tri-column. tri-column, because since there was a tri-column, the height was too much. So we had to put the staging on the tri-column before putting this perpendicular truss, because without this truss support, this tri-column was not able to stabilize. So that was a major challenge we faced, and I'll just show you. See, this is how we fabricated 120-meter long truss. So it's a top-down construction. So first we placed the top floor, then further we made the plenary, we made the lower structure. So this is how the erection of the trusses. Then this is what I was talking about. This is very important. There are 13 tri-column. We were not able to remove the staging until unless we put the perpendicular trusses on top of that. So the construction of that building is very, very critical, and we did that way. This is an exhibition hall where there was no space, so we use strand jack systems. So through pulley, all these trusses we have pulled up, and we have made the halls. Okay, so you can see the dynamism of structure we have made with all particular detail, whatever the creativity of Arcop and Aedas. We put everything in place, and this is how the structure is looking. See this. These are the a month back photo. These are the trusses we are talking about. These are huge structure. With you can see the 20-meter cantilever floor, then 20-meter cantilever roof. So this is how Shapoorji Pallonji is doing the structure. Thank you so much.